Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss question number 3a. Question number 3 is code-based question. I'll give you a little bit of briefing as to how to go about answering them before I put out the actual answer to you. I'll read the question, you be with me, try to absorb what is the core demand of the question. Given below are 3 quotations of great thinkers. What do each of these quotations convey to you in the present context? The first quotation is of Mahatma Gandhi. The simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. This quotation is not on kindness, nor the quotation is about prayer or religion. I will encourage you, you can pause the video and think about what is the core essence of the question. When you use single term from the quotation, then you may lose the essence of the quotation. Always try to hit on the phrase of the quotation. The phrase here is simplest act of kindness. Some act of kindness may require dedication, spirit of service, moral courage, integrity that may test your perseverance, your commitment. But the quotation is not on that. Quotation is on simplest act of kindness. That is more powerful. And to give reference to as to where it stands, Gandhiji has used the reference of 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. 1,000 heads bowing in prayer, of course, is a good thing because it shows good intention. And the simplest act of kindness, no matter how small the act is, that's action. Action based on goodwill, because kindness is involved. So action, no matter how small it is, it's better than intention. That's the essence of the question. So action is more powerful. It is very powerful. And the reference point has been given, the 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. And action is even more powerful than this. So essentially the question is on the importance of taking action in your capacity, no matter howsoever small it is, but take actions. That is the question. The question is about taking action. It is very powerful. And this you can draw parallel with another question that came in 2021. And this message, this essence of the quotation, you'll find reverberance of this, echo of this every year in one form or the other. So for once and for all, you have to clinch with this idea that you have to take action. See this quotation, integrity is a value that empowers human being. Integrity empowers human being. And in discussion, you see act of kindness, no matter how simple, is by far more powerful. It is more powerful. That means it is empowering if you do this. This is a powerful thing. So if you imbibe this in you, it is empowering for you. And when you imbibe this, you get integrity. Incidentally, integrity is a value that helps us to give effect to our standards. Standards are ethics. And value that give effect to the standards, that is integrity. Integrity is empowering for human being, the question here says. And here the question says, simplest act of kindness, that is powerful. The simplest act of kindness, doing things, is empowering. Integrity is also doing. So pretty much the same thing, right? Let's see how to go about answering it. Here the answer is there in front of you. We'll have a discussion on this. In the intro I have written, the quote emphasizes the importance of taking concrete actions rather than simply offering prayers and good intentions. Taking actions underscores the exponential impact of even the smallest gesture of goodwill. Exponential impact. The impact is huge, that's why it is empowering, that's why it is powerful. Now, we'll come to the body. In the body, I suggest you have some kind of classification of your body. If you simply randomly write down few points, thinking, you can of course generate certain points. But the risk that you'll be running that way, those points may be unidirectional. It can be from 1 or 2 dimension. But your answer has to be very broad. It's not about how many points you have written, it's about how many dimensions you have covered. So unless you have certain kind of classification in your body, chances are that your body will not be good. You write 3 points, somebody else will think 3 more, the evaluator may be thinking three other points, That's not the way to go about. Your answer has to be coherent, your answer has to be diverse, your answer has to be all encompassing. So there are various ways of classification, as you will learn through discussions of various videos. In the body here, I have used a classification that's very powerful, was also used by Plato. It is within and without. That is the whole world. Whatever is inside and whatever is outside, that covers the entire world. So something is empowering, it must touch all aspects, and within it must be empowering, and without it must be empowering. So whatever lies within lies our character. Within lies our ethics, integrity, and aptitude. So it must be empowering within. Our character must get strengthened by doing certain things. And if that is the case, then that is empowering. So the simplest act of kindness comes back to us and helps strengthen our character. In this paper, the highest thing within you that you can achieve is your moral character. Act as a moral agent. And whatever helps in that, that is empowering. Because whatever helps us to reach to the goal, target, that is empowering. In terminology of GS paper 3, financial inclusion can be empowering. Infrastructure development can be empowering. Banking services can be empowering. Whatever helps to reach to the goal of high economic growth or social justice in GS paper 2, that's all empowering. In this paper, the highest end within is to develop moral character, to become a moral agent. So having EIA, ethics, integrity, aptitude, that is very, very empowering. So that's all you have to prove. That it is empowering. Smallest act of kindness is also beneficial for the practitioner of kindness. So it strengthens moral character. That's how it empowers us within. That's how it is powerful. The power of anything will come in the context of moral character, morality. So I have 4 points here, and I have used 4 philosophy. One of the philosophy is comes close with the of Gandhiji, but gels very well with that of Swami Vivekananda as well, Rabindranath Tagore as well. The second philosophy I've used here is that of Gandhiji. The third philosophy is of Aristotle, and the fourth philosophy is a modern philosophy of 19th, 20th century, existentialism. See, taking action actually develops our character because any value develops with practice. As per Aristotle, morality develops, moral excellence comes about as a result of habit. So when we practice, our feedback goes back into our psychology, and with positive feedback, that value gets strengthened. So we take baby steps and we keep learning. That's the way to develop value. That's the way to awaken our conscience. Gandhiji took the toughest decision of his life when he called off the non-cooperation movement after the Chauri Chaura incident. But he survived that day, and he could be practicing his value of non-violence, and he practiced his integrity and took decision based on his conscience. It was the toughest time because very few people were supportive of him for that decision. But he developed his ability slowly and gradually. Remember, there was a class spelling test that happened when he was in school, taken by the school inspector, and he did not cheat even when prompted by the class teacher. So slowly and gradually he was preparing himself. Moral excellence comes about as a result of habit. So you take small act of kindness. Of course, the person on whom you're practicing kindness will be the beneficiary, immediate beneficiary, but you will also be the long-term beneficiary because it will help develop your character. So we are trying to classify the body into within and without. And you can use various philosophies of karma yoga or universal brotherhood because of these values. You can use the concept of Aristotle that practicing virtues builds character, and you have to take baby steps, even the simplest act of kindness, to practice your virtue. You can use the philosophy of existentialism that focuses on the fact that action is a deciding thing, not abstract ideals in philosophy. Actions that we do, the choices that we make, that is the central thing. And action is about taking simple steps in the beginning. So these are the philosophies. You can use 1 or 2 in the first subheading, and then you have to give examples. Examples always have to be hard hitting. That justifies the essence of the quotation. The example that you'll give must really be simple things. For example, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam once denied using glass pieces on the top of a compound wall in the DRDO facility protecting a building. Why? Because the birds can be hurt. It's a simple act of kindness towards the birds. You have to write examples like this, and this helped Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to become people's president. Being compassionate, kind, empathetic, tolerant, impartial towards all. So it helped you in return. That is the power of small act of kindness. Similarly, you can write other examples of simple act of kindness. For example, Nelson Mandela is very well known for giving patient hearing to all people. After 27 years of imprisonment, when he became the first black president, he had to control the passion among the blacks and the fear among the whites. So he gave patient hearing to all sections to make them feel heard, and that developed social sentiment, common sentiment, and strong nationalism. That's a small act of kindness. You're just hearing people patiently. That's a simple act of kindness, but it goes a long way in nation development. So it is powerful. You have to show the power of small actions. You hear the famous story of Bhakti saint Namdev. Swami Namdev, once he was meditating and taking the name of the Lord, enchanting the name of the Lord, and the wife came to give chapati with ghee and gur, but he didn't feel like eating them, so he asked the wife to keep it aside. And she went and he kept on enchanting. A nearby street dog took the opportunity and pulled out the chapati and started running away. Swamiji started running behind him, and the dog was scared. He was pacing up, but Swamiji could match up the pace, seeing the Lord in the dog. And because of that, his pace increased, and finally he caught up with the dog. And then he said, "Dear dog, why are you eating just the dry chapati? That may actually hurt your throat. So take the ghee, take the gur, and enjoy the meal. And you're too good, too soft, too kind to be sitting on the floor." So he got the dog, sit on the lap, and fed the dog. And people around were stunned. They were stunned as to what they have just witnessed. That's the power of small act of kindness. It's not a great thing, but in the impact of it, it is greater than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. In every culture, the small act of kindness is valued. You just look at your old parents with affection, with shafqat, and that's a good deed. It's a virtuous deed. It's a prophetic deed. In the Islamic culture, you just spread your hand over the head of an orphan child, and that's a prophetic deed. You just give water to thirsty people. That's a prophetic deed. So small act of kindness, it is valued in all culture, in all religion, and that is more important. Action is more important than the intention. Take action that develops the internal character. That's the only way to develop it, actually. So you have highlighted the importance. And then in the categorization, we have within and without. Within is you. Within is your moral character. Without, there are many things. Without, there is society. Without, there is administration. Administration, if you feel like, you can divide into public and private. And you can have other classification of philosophy as well without. But within is psychology, your moral character, and without is sociology and public administration. You can also have private administration. So have some kind of classification. This is all encompassing. You have to show the power. You have to show the power like this, touching all areas. So the second classification, the second subheading I have here is of uplifting shared morality. Shared morality, shared humanity, shared responsibility is the idea that we must be having in society. And small act of kindness has a reciprocal effect. And by principle of reciprocity, that develops a good sentiment towards each other. That develops brotherhood. That develops fraternity. That develops cooperation, consensus, willingness to resolve conflict. That develops tolerance. That develops empathy. So I have written a thing about it. Then I've also included the philosophy of utilitarianism, if you wish, to enrich your answer. Just like we have used philosophy in the first section. Utilitarianism is about maximizing the good and minimizing the pain, suffering. So, maximization of happiness or maximization of good comes from improving lives of people. And kindness does improve that. So it is aligned with the philosophy of utilitarianism. And you can write some example. You can write the practice of food langars in Sikhism. You can write the example of recently the elder line system has been initiated by Government of India to give emotional support to senior citizens. You can write some small consideration of making the public buildings accessible while it is at the construction phase. It won't increase the budget by too much amount, but it will make it more accessible for differently able people. It is also part of Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan or as you call it in English, Accessible India campaign. So it is now the institutional requirement to make the buildings accessible. It's an act of kindness in the larger realm of thing. It's not very high increment in the overall budget, but it shows inclusivity in policy making, in public administration, and society as well. So this is society, and now I have come to public administration, but I'll not be using that word every time because it will be repetitive. So I've used ethical governance. It ushers ethical governance. Mainstreaming inclusivity, promotes equity, strengthen human potential in delivering justice. If we show kindness, it protects human rights. It takes care of the marginalized section. It helps to bring Gandhi's talisman in decision making, if you want to use some of the philosophies. And then you can write some example. You can write example of parental leave and the child care credits that are given to, especially to women, crucial facilities at women, maternity benefit. It's a small act of kindness overall in the whole career. Once, twice, you'll have to give the maternity benefit. Small act of kindness. It goes a long way in building up the half of the section of populations, their career, their aspiration, and of course, the contribution that comes to economy and society along with that. It's a small act of kindness. India shared the SARC satellite. The data that the SARC satellite collects can be used by anyone in South Asia. We already had the infrastructure. Now, all we have to do is share some data with the neighboring countries. A small act of kindness doesn't increase the overall cost, but goes a long way in building the goodwill, common sentiment, brotherhood in the region. It goes a long way. So that's why it is powerful. It develops sentiments. It develops the soft power of India. It develops the high moral position of India in the global forum. It is powerful. Similarly, you can use extend this in private corporations, extending the administrative dimension into public administration and private corporations, private administration as well. In the private administration, it is more so important because they are not under social contract, but they can play a role in the nation building by celebrating diversity, by uplifting communities, providing meaningful employment, protecting the dignity of people, respecting everybody at workplace. So they can also contribute it. For example, Microsoft has brought an autism hiring program. You may have heard of IKEA. They are sourcing their products from environmentally friendly sources, from the sources, the supply chain that maintains environmental values. So they can also contribute. This is a small act that you do, but it goes a long, long way in changing the way we live, in changing our character and interconnectedness in the society. So in the conclusion, I have used the concept of Immanuel Kant. I haven't used it in totality with his name because that may complex the scenario. But the moral system that Immanuel Kant has developed, that is rooted in actions taken with goodwill. And actions taken with goodwill, according to him, doesn't have to have any other justification as to why it is good. Goodwill is one, that is the only single thing in our life that is good in itself. So that is from pure intention of kindness. That's why it is good. And if we adopt this, we can build a just society founded on mutual care and compassion. That's why it is more important than just praying and having intention. Acting according to our goodwill. This, what Immanuel Kant has taught us, can actually be used to materialize the idea that Mahatma Gandhi has given. That should complete the answer in word limit.